Hey, it's Sandra Pike from LePage Atlantic and the Pike Group, and this is our monthly chat session. And there's lots of hot topics out there in Halifax, especially about the real estate market and buyers, what they're experiencing. And so that's what we're going to talk a lot about today. But before we get into that, if I could get our panel to introduce themselves, that would be awesome.
Hi there, it's Angus, also from LePage Atlantic. Good afternoon.
And Richard Payne from Halifax Homes and Lifestyles at EXP Realty.
Hey, Brenda Kay here from Brenda Kay's Halifax Home Selling Group. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, take off the glasses now because I'm getting the glare. But so the market has been crazy. And so I know I sent a bunch of questions beforehand, but I'd like to get your opinions. Do you think, Ian, that buyers now are overpaying for the houses that they're purchasing? Because I think when we looked at stats yesterday, between November and February, there were 2,400 homes that sold, and 1,500 of them either went at ask or over list. So would you say people are overpaying there? What are your thoughts?
I think in some instances people are overpaying, but I think in general, our market itself and HRM has been undervalued for a while. And people are just finally realizing that, they have to pay top dollar now because of the lack of inventory and the competition that's out there. So yeah, I do think some people are paying an exorbitant amount of money for certain properties, but in general, I think, we're still shy of that $400,000 average home price, or right around there. And if we compare that across the country, it's still very reasonable.
Mm-hmm. How about yourself, Ian? What will your thoughts be?
Ian?
Sorry?
I don't know if, oh, sorry, Ian. Oh, sorry, I apologize. Richard, what are your thoughts? My apologies, Ian.
No problem. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. You look at how the inventory's been, and we know that everybody's been saying Halifax has been pretty underpriced for quite a while. We're finally catching up, but we are catching up and we've caught up quickly. So I think the key thing we're all hoping for is a little bit of a flat line in pricing. Once we kind of get past that spring and get into the summer market, it'd be good just to see just a little slowdown. Let's not keep going up by the 5-6% a month that we're getting at the moment. Let's just kind of slow down, and let's just flatline a little bit, just to put a bit of steadiness in our market, as opposed to climbing up by, I think we're at 34% on this time last year. I mean, in 1 year, that's a huge increase on an average price.
Mm-hmm. And what would your thoughts be, Brenda?
Well, my thoughts are, as we know, what we do with people is we're giving them advice in a relationship of agency. And you're kind of between a rock and a hard place, because some of the buyers are desperate. They've written 5, 6, 7 offers. They're not getting the house. But at the same time, I have to look at them and say, look, if anything changed in your life in the next 12 months, you could be in serious financial trouble. So it's really hard to kind of keep that balance. And again, the chicken or the egg. People want to sell, but they're afraid they can't find something to buy. So we have less than 500 active listings in Halifax. We're normally at this time of the year, 3 years running, we're at 1,200 plus. So that's a concern for me, is making sure I give the right advice.
Yeah, I mean, when I've looked at the market, first, in order to win, I would say since the pandemic. But I'm going to state something now, and it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this before I get down that path. I feel that the trend of this market that we're in started at the end of 2017. That stale product that was on the market was finally selling. And then when it came to, I remember listing properties January 2018. I'm thinking in my head, yeah, I'll sell this in June. But it actually sold within a few weeks. And that was in January 2018. So based on my experience, that's when I feel our trend actually started. What do you guys think? Have you experienced the same thing?
I agree with that. I found even before COVID last year, I found in November, end of October, November, we were hitting the seller's market in the fall of 2019, no question. A lot of people think it's right now because of COVID and because of everything, but we were on this trend. I agree, Sandra.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing that I saw. I mean, I do stats every single month, and even now I start looking at like, okay, let's go back to 2019. And as Brenda was saying, really the kind of trend in the downward amount of months of inventory, which is going towards the seller's market, you look at that and you can trace it right back to almost like spring 2019 is when it went, oh, like, hang on a minute, this is the first month, probably for about quite a few years, where we've dipped underneath 5 months of inventory, and less than 5 is sellers. And yeah, 4.5 months, 3 months, you're like, yeah, it's seller's market, but it's not that strong. Right now, we're at 0.6 months of inventory. And since February last year, we've been 1 month or less. So if you look at that and say, great, if we sell the same homes in February, in March, and list no new homes, we're done in 0.6 of a month. There are no homes to buy. So that's 2019. What we've seen over the last 12 months is the price increase that's come with it. Because 3-4 months, you can kind of keep stable on the pricing. Once you get down to less than a month of inventory, supply and demand, prices are going to go up, and they're going to go up a lot.
So Ian, I'm going to ask you a bit of a different question. So again, so we've all seen this trend coming. What do you think is the cause of the trend? Just because people never really saw the value in Halifax, but how about the people who were here locally? Were they not seeing the value in the homes? Like, is it us, the realtors, who's been causing this spike? Like, why do you think we are where we are now if it was starting and is not a result of COVID?
I think people, like I said earlier, have undervalued the market here, because I see a lot of chat on Facebook pages and stuff locally in the area that I specifically deal in. And they're all like, oh, I can't believe these houses are going for the price. So they feel that the houses are going way over what they should be going or what the value is. Mm-hmm. But in the same breath, I don't think this trend is going to change anytime soon. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, because once the COVID thing is over, or everyone has their vaccinations, there's going to be, we're going to open the country back up again. There's going to be more immigration, and people are learning that they don't need to go to their office building to do their work. They can work from home. And, Halifax is still affordable. We're still less than half of what the average price of a home is in the GTA or in Vancouver, which is even higher. So the benefit here, it's always been here. It's just people are figuring it out now. So,
Brenda, I'm going to ask a really political question. So we have a lot of less inventory, and again, I remember looking at some stats as well. In 2018 at this time, there were 21 homes on the market. So while there were, let's say, 500 listings in areas 1 through 40, there is less than 400 homes right in Metro itself that is on the market. Would you say that the city has anything to do with this? Would you say that, the city permits maybe for new construction, if there were more new starts, would we have been in this the crises of housing? What else has been factors that have been leading up to this?
Yeah, and you're right, it is political, and I don't want to show any disrespect to anywhere in the municipality, but Halifax does have a reputation for being very slow on projects to get them through the system. I mean, we've all read about it. It can be anywhere from 2 to 7 years to get it. And there is a real shortage of land right around the Halifax, Dartmouth. And then when we talk in a few minutes, I'll talk about the new construction. You really see that. There's one development in all of Dartmouth right now. Some of the biggest developers are going to Enfield. Can we get people through this process quicker? in the city. And I think,
But you
and
can in Enfield, right?
yeah,
Huh.
Well, we
Oh, no.
had that in our meeting yesterday, Sandra. I don't know if you were on there, but one of our agents that's representing a development out in Enfield stated that they walk into the Enfield, community offices with their plans and they walk out with the permit. Whereas trying to do that in Halifax,
Mhm.
it's weeks, months.
7 years.
yeah, I was gonna say, it can be years. I think
Yeah.
the only record worse than ours is Calgary in Canada. That's not good.
Wow.
Well, going back to that Enfield, I had the same conversation with a builder where his expectation was walked in, dropped all the plans off and said, okay, when will it be ready? The guy who was the development officer looked at his watch and said, well, where are you going for lunch? And he said, where do you want to go for lunch? He's like, well, be quick because this will be back in my desk by 1 p.m. this afternoon. And he's like, really? So yeah, I think you're right. I think you start looking outside of the HRM, and I think we'll start seeing more developments cropping up literally just outside HRM. So you can keep that commute to Halifax down to like 45 minutes or less. It's going to start showing up a lot more, and people will start moving there because it's 45 minutes or less commute if you want to be in Halifax.
Yeah, and the people that are coming back from Ontario or out west, they're already used to terrible commutes. So, you have to do a 45-minute commute on the highway with not a lot of traffic. They're gonna be like, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
sold-
go ahead, Brenda, sorry.
I was gonna say, I sold someone that was relocating here from Ontario, and they actually went in the Windsor area. And when I made a comment about the drive, they were like, hey, look, there's like no traffic. I mean, she told me they normally spend 3 hours a day on the road.
Wow.
Wow.
There's nothing far in Ontario, right? People are just used to driving from Oshawa to downtown. I couldn't imagine, having to do that.
But here's another one when you talk about, is the government helping this? There's an advert running in Ottawa at the moment by Nova Scotia Business Incorporated, trying to get people literally to move because they can work from home, come and be an entrepreneur in Halifax as opposed to Ottawa, come and enjoy everything that Nova Scotia has to offer. So you've got Nova Scotia Business Incorporated basically sending adverts in Ottawa saying, come to Halifax. So all of a sudden, are we seeing a lot of Ontario people looking at moving to Halifax? Well, they're getting adverts. And that was a friend of mine that said, maybe I should come back to Nova Scotia. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, here's the advert. And CBC published an article on it to say, this is what NSBI is doing.
Yeah.
Wow. And yet there's no homes.
Yeah. And Halifax being voted one of Canada's best city to work in from home. We're getting, I don't know about you guys, but the number of exploratory phone calls that I get now from Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is the best place to work from home, isn't it, Brenda?
It is.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you guys noticed a trend that let's say I don't know, back a year ago or a year and a half, and maybe it's not a result of the pandemic, but first you could go, $500 over a property. If you were in competing offers, you'd get it, or like 501. And then it jumped to, 1,000. Then it was at 10,000. And then I saw it at, if you want to win an offer, you got to go at least $50,000 over. Then I saw it, I was telling my buyers, it's at 70,000. We wrote an offer the other night on a property in Sackville that was listed at 412. And we wrote an offer 71,000 over asking, didn't even get a look in. So now when I'm speaking with a buyer, and I said, it used to be 70, now it's 100. And that's the only way you're getting in. I mean, are you guys experiencing that on offers that you're writing or offers that you're receiving?
Absolutely. Yeah. And now what I have to tell my buyers, and I'm sure you guys will agree, I met with a buyer this morning and he told me his budget was 300 to 320. And I said, okay, we're going to shop from 200 to 225. You can't even look at what your budget is anymore because it's not, you're just wasting time. And it's almost like a teaser to them. Oh, here, let me show you something at 300, but if you want it, you got to pay 400. I don't want to do that with buyers.
And it's that level of expectation that we have to kind of manage now, because like you say, if you're shopping for a 300 budget, we better be looking in low twos. Otherwise, I can't show you something in the 300 range because it's going to go for 350, 375. So you manage the expectation right off the start.
Yep.
Ian, would you say, go ahead, my apologies.
No, I was just going to mention that, in the area that I deal in, you're hard pressed now to find anything under 300 grand.
Yeah.
And that was unheard of. But I mean, small split entry semis, are going for 305. And I couldn't give them away for 200 grand 18 months ago.
Wow. So let's say in the past not even 6 months, let's say since January, would you feel that listing agents are pricing the properties too low, creating this effect?
Well, I'll start on that one. No, I go in, I presented one this morning. I do it based on the math. And I tell them that this is what works using comparables. And, if I get one that's way up here, like I want to price it at fair market value. And what I explain to my clients is the buyers still want to see that. If you underprice it, you risk your clients getting less money. If you overprice it, then buyers look at and say, oh, they're just gouging me with their house. But if the buyer looks at it and ascertains its fair market value, they'll fight like the devil for it and pay 60,000 over. Just makes
Minimum.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that same thing. There's still got to be, as Brenda says, value. You can't look at a house that should be 400,000 and say, well, let's put it up 525 and see what happens. Like going back to our realtors potentially causing the problem here, if we start doing that kind of stuff, then we're deliberately causing the market to go way over where it ever should be. So, as Brenda and Ian, and I'm sure yourself do, we all do the same thing, which is here's fair market value. Has fair market value gone up over the last 12 months? Yes. But we're not going to sit there and go crazy. And like you say, undervaluing it, it just creates something craziness in terms of either like 100 offers, or even you're just going to sit there going, well, the sellers could potentially look at you and say, I don't think you actually know what you're doing, because the sellers have already come up with a number in their head. You just have to make sure that it's a sensible number.
I was on a listing appointment, I don't know, let's say about a month and a half ago. And I said, when I looked at what was around there, like the homes that were brick, garage, newer, were selling for $490, $500. And they wanted to list their house at that 500. And I'm like, well, I said, you're two totally different homes, right? Because the other ones are, again, they're, brick, they're brick homes, yada, 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 yada. Then another agent comes in, oh, absolutely, listed for over 500. And I was flabbergasted, right? When I was doing my homework. And then, from what I gather, the house probably sold upwards of 600,000. Like that was wild. I mean, giddy up, good for the sellers, right?
Yeah.
But I was shocked to see the disparity between the prices.
Yeah.
What I've been doing lately over the last 3 months or so have been coming up with a fair market value and then adding like 5% to that.
Yep.
And coming up with the list price, just to, we don't need 100 people going through a property, and we don't need to have 40 offers on a property. People, will see, like we were discussing earlier today, they'll see something at 300 and their budget is 300 and they'll still want to go see it. They'll want to write an offer with no chance of getting it because their agent, I find that a lot of agents, and not just new agents, seasoned veterans, everything, don't want to have any conflict with their client at all and don't tell them the truth. Saying, if you got a $300,000 budget and that's your max, like we said earlier, you got to be looking in the low twos, maybe the mid twos, you might get lucky.
Yeah.
But, we don't look at a house that's 300 grand. If your budget's 300 grand, it's just, you're just wasting everybody's time.
And then-
Go ahead,
And
sorry.
then on top of that, they're seeing these houses at 300 grand that are looking a little bit nicer than those ones at 230. And then they're gonna compare everything to the one they didn't get. Well,
Yeah.
that one had this. Oh, well, yeah, but it also went for 370 grand.
So how would you prep your buyer?
I tell them right up front that, listen, this is your budget. This is as high as you can go. So we have to look at least $50,000 below that in certain markets. Like if I have clients, I deal with, the under 350 range for the most part. So that's a very difficult market to be in right now because there's not a lot of stuff that's going under 300. So the people that have that max of 300 are really struggling. There's a lot of competition out there. And people are paying, a lot of money just because they're sick and tired of losing out. I talked to one agent from Viewpoint who mentioned that. I said, how did you come up with the price? He goes, my client looked at all the comps and then added 15% onto what the average price was because his offer was almost identical to another offer. And I'm like, how did you come up with that price? Because it was so much higher than the listing price. And that's what they're doing. So.
And you have to watch too, that as the realtor, not to get caught up in, oh, I want to win this.
Yeah.
You have to act in the best interest of your client. And even if they're disappointed because they didn't get a particular house, we've all heard back in the day, where the bags of chips got smaller as the price went up. And now it's happening with real estate. You're getting less house for more money.
Yeah, I know anytime I'm going out, I looked at a house in Eastern Passage on Sunday. And I said to my buyer before I even booked it, I said, are you prepared to pay more than $70,000 for this home in the event that you like it? And they're like, absolutely. I'm like, okay, let's go look. But, it is setting the expectation, right, with the buyer before you're going to see your property because you're not getting it at list by no means.
I had a client message me about 2 hours ago. Hey, there's a property in Stillwater Lake for 485. Do you think we could get it? Our budget's 500. Do you think we can get it for under 500? I'm like, no. There's zero chance that is going to go for under 500,000.
Wow. So guys, a question. So I'll get you, Richard, to answer this. So I was talking about, how the prices kept increasing, going up, like it was 50,000 over asking you would get it. Now I'm seeing, it was 70 last month. And now a lot of the homes are 100,000 over. Do you see that trend still continuing? And if you do, for how long?
I think we're going to see that carry on at least until summer. Like my real hope is that we just get more listings coming on the market. We know that, as Brenda said, it's not going to be new construction that's going to come and help out, just because development's taking too long. So you can't look at new construction to help fill the void and put more listings on. All you can do is look at people and inquiries that we're getting now to say, okay, who's getting ready in the next 4 to 8 weeks to come up on the market? And, I know that I've got about 7 to 8 of those coming on in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Well, this time last year, I probably had 1 of those. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's a bit more indicative of more listings coming on. Well, okay, but equally, we look at the number of buyers and the houses that were sold in February were 455. That's 120 houses more than February last year. So people are still buying. I really hope that, I'm hoping predictions, like we'll all take a little round robin bet on what month is it going to slow down. But realistically, at least till I'd say August, September this year, we're going to be in the same market all the way through. Last quarter of the year, I'm hoping we're going to flatten off because winter will come back. A lot more people hopefully will have had all the COVID injections, so that will take some of that stress off people.
50 to 64 coming. Ask me if I was excited.
So I think last quarter of the year, I'm hoping we'll just flatten off a bit, and then we'll see what 2022 brings. But I think this year is more or less all of this year is going to be the same as last. And yeah, prices
I would have
increasing.
to
I'm
agree with you.
surprised to see February go up from January, because I thought January was just a bit of a blip when it went up so much from December. And now February went up again, you know, not too much. We're only up 1% on January, but still it went up. And I was like, oh, I thought January was high. So
my prediction is that between April and June, it is going to be brutal. Last year, we didn't have many military relocations. I have 5 listings right now that they're prepping their properties to get to the market, because their posting message is coming in April and they move in July. And so if we have people who are leaving, we definitely have people who are coming into the city. So I think it's going to be, I didn't anticipate this, but I think it's going to be a lot more competitive between April and June. Yeah. It's
and you're going to let all of us 3 know those listings before they come live, yeah?
well, you know what? I had a lady the other day, and she's prepping her home to the market, and then I have buyers that I'm working with, and I called her up, and because we're just waiting for her posting message to come in. I said, if you didn't go on MLS, what's the price that you want? And she gave me the price, and I called the client and sold it, sold it off the market. So the clients didn't have to go into competing offers. And so, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but this is the worst time that I've ever had trying to put a price on the home. Yeah. So I'm asking the seller, how much do you want to get? And then, I probably did about 5 private sales last year, where I facilitated my buyer and a seller together. Because it is very difficult, right? And I mean, how many times are buyers writing offers that they're not getting accepted?
Yeah, I think we'll see some more. Certainly, like I'm out in Fall River. I know just this month and January, there's been 4 off-market private deals done by one realtor within her own brokerage, where she knew the person was selling. She went to other realtors in her brokerage. Somebody had a client that was buying, and it was private deals. And those numbers obviously don't show up on MLS, but 3 of those, I literally fell off my chair when I heard the price that she actually got in a private deal. I was like, that's insane for that price. So it's happening off market as well as the stuff that we see on market.
Yeah, but it's, it certainly alleviates the pain from having to prep your house. And I mean, I still think there's a buyer expectation, depending, where the property or the price point. But do you feel, anybody can answer this question, do you feel it's a seller's market that it's even all around Metro, or just certain pockets of town are just crazy?
I think it's everywhere. We spend most of our spare time in the Tatamagouche area, River John area. I was talking to Richard, who does just farms. That's all he does. And we were chatting a couple of weeks ago. He normally at this time of year will have about 20, 25 farms coming on the market. He has 1. So he has a lineup of people waiting to, and he's never in all his years ever had that many people looking. He's had calls from as far away as Switzerland.
Cool.
Wow.
So that we seem to be getting that. Like I used to say, like you said, Ian, I used to say, okay, Halifax is the last frontier of affordable real estate in a major port city in Canada. Well, it's here now.
Yeah, you got
it. Here now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so yes, I do. I see it out there with the agents that I've talked to.
Yeah.
And
same thing when I talk to guys, South Shore and Annapolis. They're basically the same. Because I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a client, I'm going to refer them down to you. It should be fairly easy. This is what they need. And the agent just starts laughing at me on the other end of the phone, going, sorry, did you say easy? I'm like, South Shore, Annapolis, no problem. And he's like, yeah, right. So they're seeing it as well.
Yeah.
I would say this is probably the hardest a lot of us ever worked in real estate now, navigating your seller, and especially for buyer agents now, it's a very difficult time, right? Because it's just it's a lot more work. Because usually you can go see 10 houses in a day. Now you might see 10 houses in a month because there's, you know what I mean? You're more on the road, and you're certainly doing a lot more negotiating and working for your clients. So it's hard times, I think, out there for everybody involved. So Ian, oh, go ahead, Brenda.
I was going to say, you know, all the listing appointments that I've gone on in the last month, and like I said, exactly the same thing this morning, is they all want to sell. They want to move. They want to, you know, whether it's for school or upsizing or whatever, but they're terrified to put their house on the market because they could be homeless.
Yeah.
And the option of, well, it's okay, put your house on the market, ask for a later closing date because we'll buy you a new house that's a new build. That's not an option now. Because like, yeah, when's your new build available? January 2022?
Yeah.
Wow.
When I meet with the clients, I'm asking them, you know, okay, so plan A is to sell your home and buy another one. What's your plan B? Do you have a plan B and a plan C? Can you live with someone? Can you find a rental, which we all know is as difficult as finding a house these days? So I set the expectation right there at the beginning. If we're going to sell the house, yes, we can ask for a longer closing, but if we don't find you a property, do you have another option? And if they don't, then, you know, we leave it up to the client to determine if they're willing to take that risk.
Yeah, that's what
I'm not trying to push anyone into doing something that's going to make them end up homeless, because that's just not good for anybody.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, guys, this
Okay,
has been
because we'll
great.
just go and stay in Brenda's basement.
Yes, we could.
I don't have a basement.
So build a basement.
No, but you're welcome to come stay.
My parents
That's
have a
funny.
big basement. They can.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys.
All right. Nice
Okay,
chatting,
yeah.
you. Sandra, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Have a
Cheers.
great afternoon, guys.
Yeah.